Need me to do anything. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
All right. Looks like Facebook should be there momentarily. And Facebook is live. And then YouTube is live. And Twitch. So we are live on all streams. Yay! That was fast and easy. So hello, everybody, and welcome to Sunday. We are doing CosTalk Live again on Sunday, per usual. We have fewer hosts today, but that's okay because we can still have a little party. So our guest today is Momo Kurumi, who is to the right of me, but the left of other people. We'll see. We'll figure it out. So Momo, why don't we have you introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Hi everyone, my name is Momo Kurumi. I've been cosplaying since, 2007 now? Math, I was 13 years? I started off in cosplay just buying my costumes. Initially, there weren't that many options back in the day, so I got to a point where I wanted to make costumes that were not yet available for sale. And now they make all kinds of beautiful costumes, so that's amazing. But that was initially how I got into sewing. I had no sewing experience before that, and I was so passionate about cosplay that I eventually wanted to make it my career. So I went to school for apparel design. It was a small program at Purdue University, no longer exists, RIP. So a lot of the other skills that I obtained from cosplay was just from other cosplayers themselves. It's been an amazing community. I do lots of things within it, such as run panels at conventions. I do compete in contests, as well as occasionally judge or run them. What else do I do? I love doing group cosplays with other people and just being a part of this wonderful community.
Thank you for your introduction. There we go. I'm going to stop sharing the screen there because, I'm just having screen share party. And then Kii-chan?
Hi, I'm Kii-chan. I'm the Pacific Northwest cosplayer of the group. I'm running on very little sleep, so I'm quite tired today. But I kind of the same. I run panels. I do a lot of skit work. I've done some judging. I don't necessarily have cosplay as a pro career or anything, but I have spent a lot of time doing cosplay, and in which has changed many aspects of my life. I'm actually a manager at the company I work for, and I know I got a lot of my speaking skills and my public skills from working in that cosplay atmosphere, running panels and doing stuff like that. So I would have to say that there's a lot of stuff that you don't realize you get from working on cosplay that translates into real world. And so I'm excited about this topic.
For sure.
All right. And I am
Sam and I'm Fable from Animal Crossing because I wanted something cute today.
Adorable.
I just had my nerd shirt on.
Oh, I love your nerd shirt so much because I'm yes, must watch more of that. I really need to rewatch the whole series, the whole.
Great.
So I guess it's kind of a series. I don't know. Anyways, I am Sam from ThermoCosplay. I've been cosplaying now for 6 years. And I do competitions as well. I've done commission work, I've done sponsor work, and I would definitely say that the topic on point today of, taking cosplay skills and translating them into the workforce has been useful for me before. Time management has been amazing for this. So we'll talk through some of that. If you do have any questions today, please, as usual, post them in the comment area and we'll get to them as we can. But as I've said, our topic is cosplay skills and the workforce. So, Momo, I know that you have had quite a few experiences with this. So what cosplay skills would you say help you in adult life?
There's definitely a lot of what people would consider transferable skills, such as working with groups, time management, as you said, project management, such as how am I going to tackle this large challenge, essentially, such as when you're building a cosplay or making a skit or anything like that, running a panel. You have to break it down into parts and sort of prioritize and compartmentalize what focuses you want to do, and that's very realistic in terms of skills that you would need for real world jobs. And then you have your more hard skills, like the fact that I did learn to sew got me a lot of unique opportunities. I've worked in theater sewing costumes. I've worked with shows such as parades at Disneyland. I've done alterations. I've done manufacturing. I worked for a screen printing company that they printed a lot of orders for large companies, including Facebook, Google, and Nike, Nordstrom, like pretty large clients, all the way down to like local schools and fraternities, things like that. So you can definitely accumulate a lot of those transferable skills, which will transfer into pretty much any professional career, as well as if you want to get into the specific focuses, there's all kinds of opportunities there as well.
Yeah, that's completely like, it's amazing what you can do with just like a little bit of cosplay skill, just a little bit. What would you say, based off of the experiences that you relayed to us, what would you say has been the most impactful in acquiring, like, in the professional workforce?
For me personally, since I have gone to get a degree for apparel design, having the breadth of portfolio that I have with cosplay has been the most impressive for most people that will view my portfolio or my resume. For instance, I work for bridal now. I create patterns, so I don't design the dresses necessarily, but I help create the patterns for the dresses. And I was noticed by someone from that company because of my Disney cosplays, because I make large gowns and I created the patterns myself. So the diversity of the costuming that I do, it was really applicable for theater. They were very impressed with the different materials they could work with, the alterations, because I mean I'm always making alterations for myself. So just how many different skills you need to make a costume can open up so many opportunities for different careers. I mean, shows, you can make mascots. You could even like work in retail because you have a lot. You have to have a lot of patience for both, for making costumes and with customers. So
yeah, it's amazing. Like with cosplay, sometimes it's like people only assume that there's a creative career that they can translate into. But I mean, we've mentioned there's time management, there's budgeting. We have to consider travel plans. We have to consider transportation. We have to consider, like, you know, who our groups are. So we have social interactions, and we're like, hey, if we're going to have this cosplay meetup, certain people don't like each other. So how do we mediate this? And there's so many things involved here.
Conflict resolution there.
Yeah. Conflict resolution is a big one.
For sure.
Fandoms,
for me,
they love each other, competing fandoms. It's not even like a hate thing. It's just, mine is better. And then you're like, whoa, chill out. Chill out.
I feel like I do conflict resolution on the daily.
Hi, Lena. Welcome. We're so happy to see you. And since Jinx isn't here, I guess I'm going to read the comments and stuff because she would always remind us to stop and say hi. So, hi, Zagra. She says, beautiful, Violet. We were gushing over her before the stream started. And then Vaughn says, howdy. And Maya is, hello, everyone. Yes, cosplay can help with so many actual real-life adult skills. And we have Happy Light saying, ta-da, and Nice Horns, Lena. Which also, Nice Horns, Devil's Part-Timers, up there, one of my faves. So
yeah, seemed appropriate for the topic.
Every time I was just like, oh my gosh, yes. I was kind of hoping you'd wear it today when we were talking about careers, because I'm like, you know,
well, that was kind of one of the reasons I decided on Sable, because she's a seamstress, and so I was like, well, you know, that seems very fitting for the topic placement, so I'll just be Sable today.
Oh, that's so cute. I love it.
So okay, now we've kind of covered just some very simple things. So we've given you time to speak, Momo. So I'm gonna give you a little break so you can be like, oh, okay. What about you, Kii-chan? What skills have you used in the professional workforce from cosplay?
I mean, besides everything we've already mentioned, because like time management, working in large groups, I've choreographed multiple like large groups. I've done Seven Deadly Sins, I've done full Magus ones, and 90% of the time it's my friends who are all chill with each other. But when you have to fill in those spots, you have to go reach out into the public and see who's willing to join you on a crazy endeavor. And so I learned a lot from my Seven Deadly Sins group work. I got to work with a lot of people I didn't know. You learn a lot of improvisation, just being able to go with the flow when something happens, which relates to my job 100% of the time, because I'm a manager at Costco. And so, well, CDS and Costco, it's one of their branch companies, but like I deal with the public and large, like international companies all the time, and you just can't predict human nature. And so I I'm so happy I have all this background in working with lots of different people from lots of different places, because it definitely helped. I feel like I rose up the ladder very quickly just because I was able to speak out. I was not scared of being a public speaker. I could jump out there and talk to anybody without like any hiccups or feeling like I was nervous. I just let my confidence show. And it took me a long time because like I used to be a very, very, very shy human. I would sit in the corner and read my book. I had one best friend, and I was just the nerd kid, you know, the cut and paste. But I got into cosplay, and it showed me what I could do. And so at first it started just being in the costume and feeling that confidence, kind of getting like, well, I'm somebody else, so I can do this. Mm-hmm. And over 11 years later, I finally got to the point where even out of cosplay, I can still kind of put on that NPC persona where I'm like, okay, this is who I am today. This is what I'm going to do for work. And so it's helped me so much just with my public speaking. I've also, for college, I had to do a bunch of public speeches in a geology. It was basically like a giant convention for geology, and it was nice because I was the only one who had experiences with conventions. So I felt like I clicked with the schedule right away. I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew exactly how to find the panel rooms. And so everyone else who was in the group was like, what do we do? We don't have any idea. We've never done anything like this. But I was able to kind of just lead the way because I'm like, oh, I'm a veteran at conventions. We can do this. So there's so much that you don't realize just help you in your everyday life as you work through these problems in cosplay.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So we got some more comments. We'll go through them. I think we left off at Nice Horns, right?
Yes, okay. Yes, we left off at Nice Horns.
I don't know what the Katy Perry thing is. I don't know. I'm sorry. Someone says about related to Katy. No, not by a long shot. And then, hello, Amanda. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining us as well, Maya and Chris and Sakura and Happy Light, whomever you are. And then, yeah, basic video editing and design. I mean, those are translatable too, because you have to think about branding. So huge. Yeah, those definitely come into play as well. And I mean, that's like with my experience with costuming. So I'm just a walking brain. Okay.
It's true.
A walking brain. So I already know a lot of random things, but cosplay helped me with the social media aspect. So I learned a lot about marketing, metadata, tagging. I work in IT and I work with compliance regulations. So I actually ended up learning more about like GDPR, CCPA, COPPA, a lot of the internet regulations that are necessary to ensure that you comply, and how my website needed to change to make sure I wasn't breaking the law. And cosplay taught me all of this. Same thing with how to set up cookies, with like what cookies am I going to collect and what am I not going to? What demographic information am I going to look at? What am I going to ignore? You know, like actually considering the privacy of others translated into my real world job. Why can't I say that? Workforce, whatever. It translated there, and like I work in governance, risk, and compliance and IT security. So this actually was like really beneficial, like a testing bed to be like, so what does this actually look like? And how is it applicable from a very small itty bitty fan page / website all the way up to an enterprise solution? So yeah, I mean, you can get complicated with cosplay. It's impressive. So hello, Lena, aka ThermoCosplay Part dude, you're over here. Okay. And why don't you introduce yourself, and then why don't we have you lead in with like how cosplay kind of affects your workforce?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I know I haven't been on here in a while. Nice to see everybody again. Sorry, I ran a little bit late. I don't function well on without lunch, which is why I don't do this super often anymore. Because
like a plate eater, you have to pay it.
I'm ruled by my stomach. But actually, just to kind of expand on what Kii-chan was talking about, and like that's actually really a lot of my experience as well. My partner in crime there, ThermoCosplay, you know, we both actually do a lot of cosplay together. That's why I started adopting Thermo Sidekick recently, because people are like, I want to tag you. I'm like, well, then just tag ThermoCosplay, because we do this all together. Just Sam is definitely like my Batman, and I try to just be her Robin, you know, sidekick style. But they're like, no, I want to tag you independently. I'm like, all right, I'll just make a couple. If you ever go to any of those pages, they have zero anything on them. So yeah,
it literally says go to ThermoCosplay.
Actually, I feel like this costume is like extra appropriate today, because sometimes I feel like I'm like a part-timer cosplayer. Like I'm not quite as deep into it as some of my friends are, and I just look at what they do and I'm like, oh, senpai, you're so good. But honestly, that's been something that I feel like cosplay has really helped me a lot with. Networking. You know, you just get used to and comfortable talking to strangers, talking to them about similar interests, and you get more and more comfortable, you know, just talking to people in general. And in particularly, we've all loved that moment where somebody's like, oh my gosh, this about your costume I love, or like, I love that you're doing this character. And you're like, oh, and so then you want to do that for other people and make them feel good too. And so you just get in this habit of complimenting each other, even on like small things. And I find that I take that into my real life and in my work life as well. Like, oh, you've got a really interesting pair of earrings, or a ring, or I like your shirt, or you know, other things. Like it's not only just made me more observant, but it's made me more comfortable. Like I used to see somebody with like, say, a cool necklace or just something neat, and I'd think it, but I wouldn't really say it out loud because I'd be too shy. And now I'm like, no, I want that person to know. I want to watch their face light up when I tell them how awesome they are, because they are. And that helps hugely in networking and being able to talk to people and just getting that confidence up. And just generally, I think the more you talk to people, the more comfortable you get talking to people. And so that can really help you networking at your job as well. Like I used to be like, oh my gosh, that cosplayer is so good, I can't talk to them. And then I talk to them and they're so down to earth. And that sort of taught me a lesson in my career as well. Like, oh, that person's like, you know, 10 levels above me. And I'm just like, and now it's like, no, they're a human too. Like, you know, you still want to give them respect, obviously, like you'd want to give anybody, but it made me a lot more confident to talk to people that I thought were like above my level, and just really be able to connect, and through that, learn from them, you know, learn good things from them, and use that to help improve my own skills.
I feel like a lot of cosplayers really relate to that, over time, learning how to kind of come out of your shell. Because I know a lot of us started with well, we're just not going to make eye contact and go through life as it's going to be okay. But I mean, that's the one thing that I really, really pull from cosplay is everyone who meets me like in person is like, oh my god, you're such a like extrovert, you're so loud and rambunctious and you always steal the show and you're just so confident talking to people. And I always have to tell them, I'm like, deep down inside, this is not the person I am. I would rather just hide at home quietly. I read my books. If I'm not spoken to, I don't talk. I'm very, very little social media. Like I feel Lena, because like I just took a whole week off of social media and it was the best. And so like I'm not super, super serious, but I feel like I've really gained that confidence. And now I just go with it, just run with it with my day-to-day life.
Yeah, no, I agree too, because I've always been like a bigger girl, and I lost a lot of weight, and I was really like still not feeling myself. And so in 2014, when I wore a costume for the first time and I got compliments and I was not acquainted with that, it helped me realize, oh wait, you know what? Maybe you need to reevaluate your self-worth. And self-worth can help you a lot in the workforce. Doesn't matter what workforce it is. You exude any form of confidence and you're determined to move forward with your goal, and a company can see that, they're willing to take you as a risk or take you on, even if you don't
yeah.
have the exact skill set they're looking for, because you're motivated and the happiness and the life that you present makes them excited too, because that means that you're a team player.
As a hiring manager, okay that, because if I meet somebody and they shake my hand and make eye contact, I usually remember their name. And so when I'm going through my filing applications, I'm like, hey, that was that one person. And so just learning how to contain that energy and just to feel confident, even if you're pretending. 99% of the time, I am pretending to be confident. Like, it's just that little extra edge that gives you in the real world.
Yeah.
Bit of gravitas.
Yeah.
So we have a couple more comments. Let's see here. We have good job, Kii-chan. Yay. And then tech terms. Yeah, you're going to hear a lot of tech terms. I work in technology. It will get worse. And if you get confused, just ask. I will explain or not. Or I'll say just don't go there. It's scary. And inventory control and product research and selection. Yeah. That's completely applicable, because with cosplay, you have to really consider what materials you're going to be using, if it's going to function, if you can wear it for long periods of time. I mean, there's so many things. You even have to think about first aid, because stuff goes wrong and all of a sudden you're lacerated and you're like, what do I do? So
I have to keep inventory of my contacts, otherwise I won't be like aware of like when I open them, and I'm like, is this contact case like when did I use this last? Is this a year old or is it 3 years old? I don't know.
Same with makeup too. All of it has usually a 24 to 36 month shelf life. Some of it's 72, but that's really rare. And so like I literally will like write little labels on it, or I'll keep all my receipts in a certain area knowing this is when I purchased it. And that way I'm like, okay, this has to go because it's been too long. And you also have to learn about hygiene, right? You have to learn about how you wash your brushes and take care of your sponges and take care of your skin. There's so much. It gets really complicated. But I think we have a couple more comments I'm going to get through. Let's see, here was the other one. I'm not a pro cosplayer. I'm a IT nerd. So no, I'm not a pro cosplayer. Anybody else here a pro cosplayer? I don't know.
Under standard titles, but no, I would not consider myself a pro cosplayer.
I like to call cosplay my full-time hobby.
Yes.
I think
that's what a lot of people. This necklace is just gonna disappear in my collar. It's fine.
As far as I like to treat cosplay to somewhat of a professional level. Like when I do interact with customers, such as at conventions when I'm selling prints, or whenever I'm selling on Etsy, things like that, I do my best to be as professional as possible, which a lot of that comes from my experience in retail, and a lot of my experience in retail comes from cosplay, so they just kind of like complement each other. So
yeah, that's one thing. Like if you're a cosplayer who occasionally does sales or booths or product, I mean, now you're looking at even more relatable skills. I mean, you have to think about payment processors, vendors. You have to think about inventory and shipping. How you're going to market your product at the convention. I do sell prints, and I like to do raffles, and all of mine is charity work. So I don't take any of my proceeds. So all my proceeds go to charity. And I had to learn how to make sure that my like if I had to have specific tax licenses, that was arranged there. And then I have to, for instance, since I do quote unquote sell at events, I have to notify the city every time and say this is what I do and show proof that I don't take any of my profits and that I do donate them all to charity, so that I don't have to go through like the crazy licensing processes. So I have to get permission first from their registrar in order to actually like do charity work. So you learn a lot.
Yeah, as a commissioner, I used to do commissions many years ago, and I kind of stopped, but I learned a lot about inventory and dealing with customers, good or bad. Like that probably gave me my backbone, because I had to deal with people who weren't either happy with the product, or they were like, why is it taking so much time? Because they weren't aware, they didn't build, so they weren't aware of how much energy and time. And I cut myself so many hours and so much money in the beginning of that, because I couldn't just guesstimate a costume. I couldn't just be like, okay, well, it's going to cost this much money and it's going to take this much time, because I didn't have the experience to be able to judge. that type of application. And so a lot of the times I would cut myself short on hours because I would give them a quote and then I would always feel bad for saying, well, the fabric cost more than I expected. So I would always end up cutting myself short. And it was kind of the reason why I stopped commissioning was because it was so hard and it was so much work. And then 99% of the time the people were happy with their build and seeing their face light up and the first time they wear it and seeing the pictures online, it was like, that's what I did. And I am so like that. I love it every single time, but that lead up to that second was just pure torture. And it's a lot of work. And I learned a lot about companies, businesses, accounting, things that I avoided in college because I hate math. But I learned it the hard way. And it's all because commissioning and working on cosplay.
Yeah. No, commission work, I've done commissions before too. And I'm really good at contracts. So the first commission I did, I submitted a contract, like I sent it over to the person and they looked at me and they were scared. Like they were just,
I would be, geez, Sam.
It was only 2 pages. It was really short for a contract and it was broken down. The reason it was 2 pages is because I had breakdowns to explain things more thoroughly. And they just were like, am I gonna get in trouble? I'm like, no, you're not gonna get in trouble, but there's clauses in here that if you cancel, you don't get your money back. Like whatever payment you've made to this point, you're investing in this. And I will, like, whatever's completed, if you want it, I'll send it your way. But if you don't, I'm selling it. Like, you just have to understand there's certain ways that I have spent all these hours doing something. I would like compensation for it. And so somehow word spread and I was getting, I didn't even promote that I did commissions, but like for 2 years, I was doing a commission, like I swear every other month. And it was like all the way from Arizona to New York. And I've never been to New York. So I don't even know. I don't know how like these Midwest and like East Coast cosplayers found me. But I think what it was is I make male costumes and female. I can do both. It doesn't matter. Because I did tailoring. That's another thing. Like I worked in a tuxedo shop for several years and it actually gave me experience for cosplay. This is where the workforce gave me cosplay lessons. So working in the tuxedo shop actually taught me how to fit outfits to men properly because doing male costuming versus female is very different. And that actually kind of led me into making extra money because I knew how to make bodysuits for men and they fit accurately and their junk wasn't pulled uncomfortably. So I knew how much I knew that there's most men from their belly button to the bottom of their groin is 10 inches and then you add another 2 for a reason. So most people don't do that. And so it ends up being too tight and uncomfortable. But I knew this having worked in the tuxedo shop. So it's just stuff that you pick up from the workforce too that becomes applicable to cosplay as well. And it's surprising. So if we have any questions, again, please post them. And apparently there's a here for the junk. Yes.
I would also add in, I'm not sure, Momo, you'll have to tell us if you've had this experience also, but if anybody out there has not yet hosted a panel, like hosting a panel and entering a costume contest are 2 of the biggest things that I just encourage everybody to try at least once. Like, you know, go and watch some costume contests first, go and watch some panels first before you try your hand at it. But it's so great, like it's a little bit of the networking. Like I never go into a costume contest expecting to or even necessarily trying to win. I do it because it's a really great opportunity to meet other cosplayers and have, you know, like time to actually sit down and talk with them rather than like everybody's running, I'm running off to this photo shoot, I'm going to lunch, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like you're all stuck in that room for a while and you can really chat. But it also really gives you an opportunity to be in front of the judge and really sell yourself. And I think we do this a lot in cosplay as well, especially as you get further along and you get more used to it. Like you want people to tag you, you want people to, you know, you want to get those likes, you want to whatever, and you start getting used to like, hey, I'm pretty awesome, here's my card, or this is why this is really cool. And that really translates well into trying to sell yourself in the workforce as well, whether it's an interview or just going to your boss to explain to them why you should get a raise or get a promotion, or even just telling your boss like, hey, here's this really cool thing that I did, just so you know that I'm out there working hard. Being able to sell yourself as, you know, the positive things that you do, showing that you're confident because, like Kii-chan was saying earlier too, like just building that self-confidence and getting more comfortable talking about yourself in a positive way, and even maybe believing it if you're lucky. And with panels and stuff like that, you have an opportunity to kind of take a leadership role, like you're leading a room, you're talking with expertise. Even if you're not like the world's biggest expert on the thing you're giving the panel on, you are probably the expert or close to the expert in that room. People are coming to get your opinion for a reason. And it's really helpful to know how to just, you know, lead and show people like, hey, this is how this works, or kind of speak with that authority to then take into the workspace. Momo, have you done any panels or any costume contests?
Yes, definitely both. I love doing panels. I have a good number of them that I present at conventions. It's probably one of my favorites. I tend to do more educational ones, but there's some fun ones which are really great. And if you like anything to deal with like event planning or hosting parties, things like that, those game panels, even those can translate to great skills. Each panel, I will introduce myself, a little bit about what I do. And I do the same when meeting new people that I haven't met before, you know, and it comes naturally. Like a lot of people will be like, oh, like, what do you cosplay? What do you do? Like, where are you from? And you just kind of, you start habitually building up a little bit of a script. And in the professional workforce, this is a thing that you do also. It's called the elevator pitch, because it's sort of the idea that if you meet someone in an elevator that you want to network with, you only have a couple of seconds to explain who you are and what you're about. And so that definitely translates into real world too. I started carrying business cards around because it's honestly really impressive. You never know who you're gonna meet. I've met in line at Disneyland. We were waiting in line for, was it Tower of Terror? Now it's Guardians of the Galaxy, but right in front of us there was somebody who worked in the movie industry, and he had made most of the armored costumes for, I think it was Snow White and the Huntsman. So he was working in that industry, and he was right in front of me at Disneyland. So that's a great opportunity to transfer some of your introductions that you're so used to in the cosplay community into real world. Like, hey, that's so cool. Like, I do similar things. This is what I'm about. This is what I've done, and I, you know, I love your work. I would love to know more about it. And so with cosplay, we are naturally curious. Like, we want to know more about someone's costume or someone's history with cosplay. And I think that the curiosity that we have naturally can also translate into networking, because a lot of networking is not what you can get from somebody, but what you can give to somebody. And that you never want networking to be like a take only. You want to be able to have it a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. The thing with like the networking, oddly enough, like the cosplay, we were talking about panels and networking. So my presentation at panels, because I presented at like the largest room we presented at was close to like 1,000 people or something. It was really big. It was at Emerald City. There were so many people. It was like crazy. It was so packed that they kicked them out. They kicked some people out, and I was just like, whoa. But because of that, I've landed speaking like positions and opportunities in cybersecurity where I professionally work, and that's very difficult to do, even for me being female. That's not normal. I would go to these hacking conventions, and I would very rarely see female speakers, so it was like amazing to get to speak at Cactus Con. I was like, oh my gosh, I got accepted, and it was because I had explained in my submission that I present at panels regularly, and yes, it's in cosplay, but I have knowledge in these other areas, and I was able to like kind of explain to them how many times I've spoken and what I've done, and they're like, oh, okay, then she can handle a crowd, because that's the whole point of can you handle a crowd. And yeah, so you can take cosplay panels, start really small and build up, and end up translating that to the other opportunities as well if you want to speak as a professional in other areas. And that creates more networking.
And with that in mind, one of our comments, panels and volunteering at cons are great. A certain con director wrote one of my letters of recommendation on my first teaching job. And then it goes on, my con skills are made up of, are too tired to read out loud. I'm sorry, I'm dyslexic. My con skills made up most of my resume. And I equally vouching for that as somebody whose resume is made up mostly of my cosplay skills. I don't think a lot of people realize that you can actually put a lot of volunteer work on your resume. If you don't have like a physical job, because like that's the hard part coming out of high school or just starting college is you don't have that like tech. You can't just be like, oh, I've worked at these jobs and so this is my experience. But if you volunteered at a convention, that is great to put on your resume. If you've ran panels, if you've done speeches, if you've competed or you run large groups, I know that there's a ton of things online you can look up to figuring out how to word that type of volunteer work to make it sound in a more professional setting. But you can completely and 100% use that on your resume to talk yourself up.
Yeah, I call it pro bono work because that's kind of what it is, right? Because I've done like I learned PCI compliance on a basic level because I volunteered at a convention. And they needed somebody to learn it. And so they gave me the certification course. I studied it and I completed it for them and gave them knowledge they needed to do their website work. And in turn, I now can apply it to my professional job. So like,
right, and I'm not super techie. I'm not like Thermo, but a lot of the tech stuff that I have learned from doing cosplay and running my own pages and everything that that Sam said, cookies and working with trying to make your page look better. That actually translated a lot into my work because my head manager was awful with the computer. And so one day when I was just a little peon, I came back into the office for lunch and I heard her basically just swearing at the computer. And I was like, oh, well, what's wrong? And she's like, well, I just can't figure out how this email's not sending. And so I sat down and I helped her fix it out because it was a fairly easy task. And I was like, well, I'm off the clock, but it's fine. And so I went in and I fixed it. And she was so shocked. She was like, that you made it look so easy. And I was like, well, I've taken a lot of college classes on computer stuff, so I know some tech. And that was the turning point in my career. After that, she started pulling me off the floor more. She started asking me more questions. She started paying me to come back and teach her how to use the system. And I actually mastered the system so I could teach the other managers how to use it. And that at that point, I was basically hired on as manager. It's just that one little thing that I was like, oh, I know how to do that because I remember learning how to set the cookie browser. And so like I just went and fixed it. And after that, my personal career just started growing. And so
that's a thing too, cosplay training, because I mean, think about it. Cosplayers are trainers. Like we want to teach everyone. We
right.
and we're like, let us teach you.
I train a lot of people because I have the patience because I'm used to sitting with new cosplayers and building. That's my favorite thing to do. And so like I just trained somebody this week. It's just something I do naturally. I didn't even think about how I got those skills from cosplay. I just did it.
Yeah, it's definitely very true, and that sense of camaraderie also. For example, when I worked at Disneyland on the parades, I worked at the Paint the Night Parade, which was a nighttime light up parade.
Those are so cool.
Well, it's my favorite. It's like my favorite memory. The costumes were quite extensive to build, very extravagant. I mean, some of them could weigh as much as like 15 pounds. They would have like multiple batteries, different plugs that you have to plug in to get everything to light up. Like it's to the point that we have a morning shift that just builds the costumes, and then the night shift that would actually help the performers get dressed and everything. And because there are so many costumes and so many components involved, it's pretty frequent that you might forget something, or you might need help being like, oh, I'm missing this toe box for the light up car stanters, and you would have to have somebody assist you, or you would have to show somebody how to do a thing. So that's a very common skill both in cosplay. Someone would be like, is my wig cap showing, or does anyone have a safety pin? Just that sense of community and camaraderie, I think, is important to have in the workforce, because we're coworkers and we're working together, and we want a positive work environment. And the same with conventions, we want a positive experience with other people, and dealing with that, knowing how to help people and knowing how to ask for help is really important. I used to be terrified to ask for help in the workplace. I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I would spend longer trying to figure out how to do something that if I just asked for help, it would have been less embarrassing. Like that episode of The Office where Jim doesn't know what a rundown is, and he spends all day trying to figure out what the heck a rundown is.
Yeah.
So it's honestly, it's a good thing to ask for help. It shows that you're engaged, and
yeah,
definitely.
I agree. So we've got some more comments to go through. I explained that cons and volunteering got a director to write her a letter of recommendation. So yeah, you can.
It's amazing. Yeah.
You get letters of recommendation too, people. This is awesome. And then we have some hello Stephen, good to see you. Sakura, I thought it was really cool you worked for Disney, Momo. And then we have Happy Light asking if we have any crazy cosplay experiences. So are there any crazy cosplay experiences I would say that we can think of that like relate to like workforce? Anybody? I have some, but who wants to go?
Like, this is a good
question.
question. I have to
so I'll throw it in. I'll throw one in so that I can give you guys an example. So like, because I'm really good with contracts, I like, I talked about social media and learning how to network, and my job I actually ended up helping start the social media at it years ago for tech support. So like that taught me even more. I was like, oh cool, translatable. But because I'm really good with contracts from cosplay, I received a contract from the Warbler company to experiment with Warbler's Covercast art, and I followed it to the T, did everything in time in advance, and like the lady was just like, this is amazing. Most people miss stuff. Like you got everything. And I also asked questions about parts of it that I thought were ambiguous. And they were just like, what? What? What is this? And so now that was like amazing for me because I got to work with the Warbler company. And the reason I know contract management so well is from college and from work, because again, I work with vendor risk. And so I have to really be careful with like master service agreements and contracts and really thoroughly vet them. And it just made cosplay easier, and the two of them just partnered together, and that was awesome. So I got to do some partnerships with the Warbler company, and that was really fun. I think that's crazy because Warbler's huge.
Warbler's awesome. I don't think I have any like crazy stories or anything. The only thing I could possibly think of like workforce or gaining a skill or something is I was at this one con doing panels, and I'd done a couple panels before, but it was pretty easy because you have your mic and you do your thing. Well, our tech just dropped. Like we had no tech in the room at all, and we couldn't figure out the system, and they called to go get a tech, but we didn't know how long it was going to be before that tech was able to get back to my panel and fix things. And so I had to make the executive decision to either keep going without the tech or to just keep to just drop the panel, or hey guys, kind of bamf until it happens. But I wouldn't have had enough time. So instead, that's where I found my voice. That's where I'm like, okay, I don't need a mic. I'm usually a very quiet human being, but I took a bunch of play and drama. Let's use that projection I learned. And so from then on, I learned how to like really project my voice to a crowd. And so to this day, if somebody's like, oh, well, the mic's not working or something, I'm like, that's fine. We got this. Like, don't worry about it. Call tech support, but we'll probably be fine through the rest of it. But like, that's my one, like, from that moment on, I stopped being scared of like little mistakes and things, and was just like, well, it's okay. We can keep going. We can do this. And from then on out, I learned how to project my voice. And now I use it all the time because I talk in crowds a lot.
Yeah, public speaking is fun.
I feel like once you start doing it a lot, you lose that like initial like jitters from being in front of a crowd. Now it's just like I have no problem at all talking in front of a crowd. I'm way more confident talking in front of like 20 plus people than I am one-on-one with a human being. If I'm one-on-one, I'm like, hi. Yeah, I think that's what I'm supposed to say. But if I'm in a crowd, I don't even notice it anymore.
Then they can ask you questions. That's the scary thing. If you can just keep talking.
Right. right.
I totally relate to that. Yes, it's just something about that like captive audience that it's like you have to listen to me versus a one-on-one. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what if they're judging every little tick I'm doing? What if they can see me sweating? But you're far enough away from a panel of people, like it's no problem for me.
I had multiple times at school where presentations didn't bat an eyelash. Everyone else is panicking, and I'm like, okay, I'll go first because no one else will. But in my advanced Japanese classes, we did one-on-one speech practice with our teacher. I cried, I think, through every one of our sessions because it just freaked me out so bad to be one-on-one with my teacher. And he was always so shocked. He's like, "You're fine when you're when you're in front of the classroom. You don't care." I'm like, "I don't know. I'm backwards than the average person. Okay, I'm fine in crowds." But I mean, I got over that eventually. But still, like, one-on-one still scares me so bad.
It's very, very different dynamics. I guess I have a couple of funny things that have happened, such as working on Disney. You know how cosplay is. You're about to go on stage, you do those contests, or you have a big photo shoot, something goes wrong, right? That happens at Disney constantly. I mean, there are some fun horror stories. So if anyone wants to talk about those later, I can give you some. Like the time Mickey's eye fell out, so he had to do a whole parade like this. So that happened not when I was there, but I've heard stories. There was a time that Donald Duck's. This was a parade that I was working. His what I call his eyeliner. It goes like above his eye, and it just what's the word? Emphasizes that he has an eye there because it's white on white fur, right? It was like falling off, so his eyes were like this. So it was really awkward. And they're like, "Here, hand sew this on. He has to go on in like 10 minutes." And I'm like, "How am I gonna? What am I gonna do? Like, this is a fiberglass head with a plastic eye with a plastic little rubber thing for his eyeliner. Like, it was the weirdest request I've ever gotten. But in cosplay, when you're about to go on stage or you're about to do the photo shoot, you don't have time to think. You have to like safety pin it together, put it any way you can so that it just works.
Problem solving big. You're like, where's my super glue and the tape?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, okay, I'm like trying to whip stitch it on, and he went out with no problems. I mean, it's amazing. You would think Disney has like the most high tech, amazing like fabric and materials and things that you could imagine. It's really not true. They work on shoestring budgets. I mean, don't get me wrong, they have big budgets. Like some of the costumes are thousands of dollars, but like when one of them breaks, we don't have the budget to replace it. Like the choral dancers, which were in part of Pink Night, they use pink Mystique fabric for their bodysuits. The same kind you can buy at Joann or Blue Moon Fabrics in the LA Fashion District, which they have a website. So if you want some cool spandex, recommend them. Not sponsored. They're just a really good fabric store, and like they just have this like foil on the spandex, and the costumes were so worn down because they danced twice a night for like 40 minutes a night each time that like the butts were like bare pink, so they looked like little holographic baboons. So Disney was an interesting experience that way. I say very more recently, fun sort of the world is small experience. One of my coworkers now was a coworker that I befriended at a previous job because we both like conventions and cosplay. So now we both work for a different company, and someone else was hired on that I had previously judged and given an award to at a cosplay convention in Cincinnati. So networking, go from cosplay to real world, but with the same group of people. It's such a fun thing. Like it's really amazing. So that's why I try to maintain professionalism at work, because obviously that's kind of what you're expected to do. You want a positive work environment, and then I also want people to feel positive outside of cosplay. You're never going to be friends with everyone, but at minimum you can give them the basic respect. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind.
I agree with you there.
Sure.
Totally agree. So we have some more comments. Let's see here. We had someone say goodbye, so bye. They're probably gone by now. Maya says that we're amazing and multi-talented. Loves hearing the stories. Thank you very much. Veronica has said that we're an inspiration. I appreciate that. I don't feel like one most of the time, but thank you. And then Alex said that his biggest issue with public speaking is breathing as much as he's talking. So that is one thing, cadence. You kind of have to figure out what your cadence is, kind of find where to breathe and what the pattern is. And that's easier when you have more people, or when you're taking a break, someone else can speak on your behalf. So something like this is a little bit easier. And then Maya very much loves the Disney stories.
Yeah, hit me up for more. I've got a whole bunch of them.
And then Chris has said that he had an improv an entire skit for cosplay show using a Coke bottle supplied by the crowd. So that's amazing. That he planned for a weapon to help defend Rome from a barbarian, and got a empty Coke bottle. So yeah, improvisation. I mean,
that's so funny. We had a kid in high school that we had to do art projects like once every quarter, and it was like I forget what they called it, but your personal project. It could be anything. And this one senior came in and obviously had forgotten about the deadline, so he like went out in the hallway for a bathroom break and came back with 2 Coke bottles. And when he went up to present, it was like he's holding the Coke bottles like this, and he starts spinning them, and he's like, a whirlpool. And then it exploded all over the teacher's desk with the water, and it was like the funniest thing ever, but he did his best.
No, improv, like, I mean, I took a lot of drama and stuff in college, but like, all of my improv comes from working with panels where things go wrong and you have to just wing it, or like, not my story, but actually my cosplay partner's story. She's the big competer. I just compete because my friends are back there and I want to sit and talk with them. That is seriously my whole motivation to competitions is sitting back with my friends.
The more fair.
Right, but there was this one year at SoccerCon where she was up there doing a big skit. Or no, she wasn't doing a skit, it was just her walk on. And they messed up her audio. And so the original audio, because she was doing Shuzo from Show My Rock, and so it was supposed to be this pop band, and she's up there singing and dancing. And the music was a battle music. It switched over to like some sort of action battle music, and she wung it. She just went with it, did more battle poses, just improv the entire, like, I think it was like a minute and a half, and then walked off stage. She still won. She still got the best in show. And that for me was like, oh man, because when the music was wrong, we're all like, oh, no. But she did it, and like it was all just her going, okay, this is what we're doing now. Seriously, she had no choice. She had to just do it. But she obviously won, so it's still like improvisation.
Yeah, see, I have really bad stage fright. So cosplay's gotten helped me with that. Like, people don't know this because I don't like to talk about it, but I have really, really bad stage fright. I think Lena might be the only one that knows that I get super anxious, and she has to like pat my hand. Like, I don't usually like physical contact, but before a show, you have to pat my hand. And like, I'll calm down. But it's just because I'm so overly excited that I basically all the plan that was in my head is gone, and so being without a plan scares me more than like anything else in my life. And so it's one of those things that like I had to learn to just go with it. My personality is enough. And like, that's another thing too, is when you're doing improv, you have to embrace your personality. And if you don't have any self-confidence, it's going to be very difficult to do. And so learning how to do improv actually helps me too in instances when I'm at work and I encounter difficult challenges. I just had to embrace my first response and just go for it, and it worked.
That is so, I totally relate to that. The improv thing is a great thing to point out because going back to Disney, which I know that's like everyone's favorite topic when it comes to my job history. Like all my other hiring managers have always loved to talk the most about that. Doesn't matter that I worked in theater or alterations or manufacturing or bridal. They want to know about Disney. I used to work retail in Disney as well, so it was customer facing, or as they say, a guest position. You could deal with the guests. Disney has a way of talking to guests that they call, it's all in show terms. So you're not on the floor, you're on stage. You're not wearing a uniform, you're wearing a costume. And the same applies to when you have a guest asking this certain question, like why isn't Mickey Mouse out right now? You can't be like, oh, he's on break. You have to be like, oh, he's having a cheesecake date with Minnie Mouse. And so you're literally improvising these stories to play along with the theme of all the characters. For instance, I had a little girl come in. She was dressed as Elsa, and I asked her, like, conversation, being friendly, like, oh, did you meet Anna and Elsa yet? And the girls told me about their story, the two sisters. And then she asks me a question that was a bit difficult to answer. She says, how come I can't meet Kristoff? We didn't have a Kristoff in the park, but I can't just say that. We don't have Kristoff. So I was like, that's a very good question. Well, you know how the park sells a lot of soda. We have a lot of soda, right? And we all need ice for the soda. Well, Kristoff is the royal ice deliverer because Elsa made him that. And so he's actually always busy getting all the ice so that we all have ice in our drinks because it's really warm out. And the little girls go, oh, that makes sense. So if you ever get to work at Disney, it's fun. You get to make up stories like, why isn't Grizzly River Run running right now. And you'd just be like, oh, well, the grizzly bear is on the loose, so we have to go catch him so it's safe for everyone to ride. Like, it's a fun, wacky job. I loved it.
That's amazing.
So we're getting down to the last 5 minutes. If all of you have any questions, please post them in the chat. But since we are getting to the last 5 minutes, we're going to go to our closeout where we explain where you can reach all of us. So Momo, as our guest, where can everybody reach you?
These days, I haven't been as active on social media, but my main ones are still Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. For TikTok, it's just at Momo Kurumi, which you can see in my little display name there. And Facebook and Instagram are Momo Kurumi Cosplay, so it's just a little bit longer. And Twitter as well, Momo Kurumi Cosplay didn't fit. If you have questions that you'd like to email me, info@momokurumi.com would be great, such as anything construction, or if you want to know more about working for Disney. Heads up, pandemic, they're obviously not hiring right now, so it's an unfortunate situation. So I don't know if anyone has heard about the major layoffs they've been having. So it's a totally different environment right now. As my heart goes out to everyone in the entertainment industry. Honestly, it's been a very difficult year for everyone. So that's a lot of jobs that normally cosplayers have skills that they often work with the entertainment industry. So again, my heart goes out to everyone who's struggling right now. But if you did have questions about what it's like to work there or what kind of skills it requires to work at some of these other industries, you can send me an email. I really don't mind talking about them.
Thank you. And then, Kii-chan, where can everybody reach you?
Pretty much Instagram and Facebook right now are my main two, and you can find me at on Instagram, the same as my handle, Kii-chan _cosplay, and then Facebook, I believe, is just Kii-chan cosplay. And that's pretty much it right now. I'm working on other stuff, but that takes lots of energy, so it's not there yet. But I will keep you guys updated.
No problem. That's fine. And then you can reach both the Thermo sidekick, I think she's like there, and myself at thermocosplay.com. We are present on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Instructables, and I'm missing something. YouTube. And Twitch. Oh gosh. Okay. Anyways.
Yes.
Just go to our website. Okay. It's all there. We also have CosTalk Live is present on ThermoCosplay, and it's also present on costalklive.jimdofree.com. So I will paste that in here for you guys to see it. We've been having some DNS issues, so I've been having some issues pointing to our CosTalk Live website. So for the time being, it's pointed to my website, and it's the same information. So if you're looking for CosTalk Live, you can go to ThermoCosplay or you can go to CosTalk Live. And I've posted all of the links in the chats for all of the chats, so you guys should all see those. I'm going to scroll and see if we have any other questions. I don't see any. So before we close out, let's have everyone give like one piece of advice or what you would think that your favorite skill is that's relatable to the workforce. So let's start with you, Momo.
I think this was a hard but important lesson for me to learn, was that you're never going to know everything, and it's okay to accept a little bit of criticism, because sometimes it hurts. It can be a little bit bruising to the ego, but learning to accept criticism with grace can honestly help you so much in a professional setting, because I would take it personally when people would be like, why are you doing it this way? Why don't you fold it this way? Or like, why hasn't this been done yet? I thought they were just criticizing me when they were just trying to find ways to help or see why I wasn't working the way that I thought I should. So learning to be like, well, how can I improve, or how can I make this better? Personal growth never stops. So I think that's a really important thing to remember in cosplay. I know it can be hard to get that criticism, but try to take it with a positive and constructive spin.
That's a good one. All right, Thermo Sidekick, you did quiet. Come on, sit down, let's go.
I think that the biggest takeaway that I've had, or that I'll give as a final wrap out for cosplay versus the workforce is, you are probably going to be more, even if you don't have the talent of somebody that you're trying to network with, you're still very likely to be helpful to them. I know people that have spent hundreds of hours on amazing giant builds that I will never in my life make, among other things, because I just don't have hundreds of hours to spend on things. And if I bring that person a glass of water or offer to bring them food, I am like God. Even though they spent hundreds of hours on this thing and they are like way more talented at this than I will ever be or put the time in to be, like, I'm still able to be helpful to that person. And through that, I'm able to build a relationship with somebody that I might not think is maybe on my talent level. So just remember, even if it's the smallest thing, you can still be helpful or useful to somebody. And you can use that kind of like what Momo was saying, rather than being like just a take from somebody, you can help give to somebody that has skills, and then, you're giving, and then they can give you some advice or some information in return.
You guys are hard to follow. I'd have to say, embrace yourself. Go with your instincts. Like, improvisation is a lot of just going with the first thought that comes to your head and just running with it. And my whole life is literally just going with something stupid I said. So I think I'm doing okay, though. So, like, really, everything that you think is horrifying and scary and terrible usually ends up being one of the best experiences that you're going to remember later on in life. So never be scared to try something new. And if something goes wrong, it's okay. Just go with it, because it's all going to be fine in the end.
Yeah,
and like, also resume.
Yeah,
like,
I like that.
Seriously, look into that. It's true.
Yeah, so rolling off of what Kii-chan had said, take risks. Embrace the concept of taking risk. Make it a calculated risk. Please do a little bit of research on it first, but embrace taking risks, because you will have failure is just another way of learning. I embrace failure. It sucks, but I embrace it. So risks are sometimes lead towards success, sometimes to failure, but either way, there's a lesson that to be learned in it, and it's worth it. So thank you all for joining us today. We super appreciate it. Again, we'll be on next week talking about cosplay contacts, I believe. So we'll be talking about safety with your eyeball.
I'm wearing some right now.
Well, I'm wearing normal contacts because I'm blind.
See, I had to go order more, and I went to Costco yesterday, and it was just a nightmare. Our Costco is so busy.
I'm sorry. As somebody who works at Costco, I'm sorry.
We legitimately have like one of the busiest Costcos in the nation, and it's just the worst. I was like at the counter, and there's this lady with holding her mask out to talk like this. She's like, and I'm just like, why?
That's another thing. Wear your mask. Be responsible. We want to see you when all of this blows over and we can finally go to cons again. So again, Thank you for joining us today, and you guys have a wonderful weekend or rest of your weekend. Bye.